Hello and welcome to Connect, the weekly podcast of the California MBA featuring one-on-one interviews with movers and shakers in the mortgage industry. I'm Susan Milazzo, CEO of the California MBA, and I'm happy that you could join us today. Before I welcome today's guests, I'd like to give a big thank you to our 2024 President's Council sponsors. And these are companies that provide a tremendous amount of financial support for our organization each year, in large part so that we can continue to be the strong voice for the real estate finance industry before the California State Legislature and our regulators. So please join me in thanking our 2024 President's Council sponsors. And those companies are AmeriHome, Arch MI, CMG Financial, Consolidated Analytics, Funding Shield, Guild Mortgage, and Western Alliance Bank. Thank you all so much for your support this year. We really appreciate it. And that brings me to welcoming today's guest. I'm welcoming Mike Pearson, who is SVP of Business Development at A&D Mortgage. Mike, welcome.
Hi, good, and it's great to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Or I should say welcome back, because we've done this like a year or so ago, and it was great to have your team reach back out and want to be a part of Connect. I always appreciate that. But I'd love to always get started. These are, conversations where we talk a little bit about, how people got into the industry and then kind of what their company's focusing on this year. So let's start out with how you got into the mortgage business.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I still feel like I'm kind of a newbie in the business, but it's been, 23 years now. So I started in 2001. Like most people, didn't expect to be in the mortgage business, just started, stepping in and helping out. So I started in compliance. Actually, I think the first thing I did was disclosures and HMDA reports and all the fun stuff there. Moved into junior underwriting, account management, and those things with Chase Manhattan Mortgage Company. And maybe about a year in, went into sales, and as kind of the wholesale AE for, I guess 15 years, and then got into management after that, and have done numerous positions across the wholesale and retail space.
Well, you've sure seen a lot of changes in the industry over that, specifically that 20-year period, right?
Yeah, they really they snuck me in when business was great, and I thought, well, what could go wrong? This is the how come everyone doesn't do this? And then we figured out why. So
I love that. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, what's the worst that could happen?
So, certainly one of the things that I've noticed, we've all seen in the industry over the past decade in particular, is the increased use of technology in the space. And so I'd love to have you share with our listeners how A&D Technologies help individuals who prefer traditional methods to increase their earnings.
Sure, yeah. So it's a funny story. I talk to people about this. I usually bring up when I was at Chase, opening files. I used to crack up because we would still in those days have hard files, and we still had carbon paper in the files. And this was not in the 80s or 70s. This was in 2001, 2002. So we have not always been the most technical industry across the US, and we're pretty late developers into technology in the mortgage space, but that has certainly ramped up over the last 5 or 6 years. It's become a huge kind of technology arms race in lending, particularly in the wholesale space, correspondent space, and other places where margins are so vitally important, and speed and streamlining operations is so vitally important. And that's been a huge direction over the last 4 or 5 years here at A&D Mortgage. We were blessed to have a very fruitful COVID time, like a lot of people, when rates dipped down. But instead of kind of spending that money away, we invested in technology. We have several platforms that we're rolling out. We've already started that rollout, and you'll see a lot more throughout this year as we kind of streamline operations and build out technologies that have been kind of hopes and wants for a long time, and now we're finally actually developing and putting them into place. And the key to that has been AIM, which is our new partner, or enhanced partner portal. AIM stands for Artificial Mortgage, Artificial Intelligence in Mortgage. So fun, kind of a catchy phrase based on where we're at in the industry, but it's all developed around customer experience, streamlining operations, and systems that learn and calibrate to the client's needs.
Excellent. That's interesting. So what steps did A&D Mortgage take to develop that new technology like AIM?
Sure. Well, we have worked on several of these platforms in kind of third-party processes over the last number of years to see what works within our business unit. Doing things like software um, and integrations and things that read documents, OCR software and things like that, to help us better condition and understand the conditions that are coming in when we're approving and looking at loans and making credit decisions. So taking some of the third-party process and then how do we develop it ourselves so that we can really cater it better to our business instead of using a system that might be a band-aid for a process, creating it actually specific to our business channel and the channels of business that we want to go after, and then listening to the feedback from our clients and figuring out, hopefully best guess of where the industry is going and try to configure ourselves to be in line for growth through what is right now a very challenging time.
It's great to get, work and prioritize to get that feedback from your partners. I think that's important. It sounds like you're trying to stay on the forefront and kind of the cutting edge of what's happening in the market. So good for A&D Mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
How does your company work to create those long-term partnerships?
Well, it starts with obviously the technology and finding platforms and solutions for our clients. So whether that is an easier process, as we spoke about, easier process or platform for people to deliver business, but then also to create tools and opportunities for them. So whether that's offering some marketing assistance through flyers and giving training on social media engagement and those kind of things. And then also working on things like loyalty programs and working on ways to deliver things like CRMs and different platforms to our customers. That's what it's really evolved to, is working on solutions that we can give to our clients to better incentivize them to continue to use us.
Right. It sounds like you, again, dedicate a lot of resources towards, building and developing and nurturing those relationships. So good for you guys. The relationship business. So you've got to be focused on that, right?
For sure.
So, A&D is, of course, a member of the California MBA, but your company's headquartered in Florida. So I'd love to have you share why the company decided to support the California MBA through membership.
Well, obviously, first and foremost, we're a nationwide wholesale mortgage lender, so we want to be across the U.S. But California in particular is a fantastic market, obviously a lot of business there. And then, I think we have a very strong relationship with the organization. We spend a lot of time, sharing ideas. Like you mentioned before, I've been on this podcast before. So it's a strategic goal that we want to be, able to be a bigger player in the state of California. But also the relationship we have, the back and forth, is different than in a lot of other places. So we appreciate that partnership.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your support through membership, and thanks for taking the time to be back on Connect. Hope to see you at some of our conferences this year.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we love working with the MBA across the U.S., but particularly in California. So it's great to be able to communicate. It's great to see you again, Susan, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again.
Excellent. Well, thank you all. Thank you for joining me today. And thanks to all of our listeners for joining us today. To access any of our past episodes, you can follow us on our YouTube channel. We're also available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next time on Connect.